Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. The most outstanding fragrance in 8 different designer houses. Basically what I did was I went to the houses that I knew really well, that I tried a lot of fragrances from. And then I also wanted to have fragrances that I felt were really standouts. There are some houses like Dior where it's almost impossible. I didn't want fist fights to break out in the comments section. So yeah, I kept Dior out of it. As far as outstanding goes, I really didn't want to include my own opinions on this because, what good is that? I also didn't want to include anything to do with it in terms of sales. And really, that's more a reflection of the general public who don't tend to know the intricacies and the details of the fragrances. So what I decided on to determine outstanding, I put my mindset in that of someone in the fragrance community, people that know a lot of fragrances, that, have large collections. What would their pick be for the most outstanding fragrance? And yeah, here we go. House number 1 is Tom Ford, and I went with Tom Ford's Ombre leather. Now, Tom Ford is technically a designer house, although in terms of price and quality, it really is niche-like. But I figured anything that was currently in the signature line was fair game. My God, though, there was a lot to choose from. My favorite is probably Noire Extreme, although that's a really tough one. I've also got Black Orchid. I tried Oud Noir for the first time last week. Oh my God, that's unbelievable. There's also Beau de Jour. I mean, there are so many good Tom Ford fragrances, but it's not about me. It's about what I thought is like iconic in the community. This thing is truly loved. If you want a proof of it, go watch Fragmental's review of Eau d'Ombre, which is the eau de toilette in this line, and you can see the pain in his face when he just does not like the fragrance, the Eau d'Ombre. I get the feeling, and this is a couple people I've talked to as well, they added vanilla to this, which shouldn't belong in a leather fragrance, but I got the feeling with Fragmental that he felt like betrayed by the fact that the fragrance Eau d'Ombre had only like a couple of hours performance. It betrayed this fragrance, which is the icon, I believe, when it comes to Tom Ford. I think this is the most outstanding. House number 2 is YSL. I have more YSL fragrances than any other, except for Dior. I think they're tied. And I went with Bleu Electrique. Now, my favorite is that. And then I think in some ways the most popular with the general public is that one, which is YSL YEDP. But to me, La Nuit de l'Homme defines YSL. YSL YEDP, that's a really good, iconic blue fragrance. But there are a lot of good blue fragrances out there. This to me is different. This to me is interesting. This to me really gave YSL its name. La Nuit de l'Homme was the breakthrough. And what I love about this fragrance is they had the original, they made a mistake, they watered it down, and then they brought it back. I mean, it's slightly different form. They added ginger, which is like a hair more freshness, but really it's just deeper, richer, and much better performance than the original, which they had messed with. They fixed their mistake right away, which, quite frankly, other houses don't do. It took Paco Rabanne 6 years before they re-released the proper version of Invictus Aqua 2016, and even then it's like limited release. Normally fragrance houses don't fix their mistakes. YSL did it. Yeah, this is the icon. House number 3 was Givenchy. I know this house super well, and this one was easy. This is Givenchy Gentleman Reserve Privee. The EDP really injected some life back into this house because it kind of took off. I mean, it was a super popular fragrance, but when they released this, yeah, it was next level. I remember the first time I tried this, it still had that sweet iris component, but it was clearly different. But this one took the sweetness in a different direction. This was amber instead of vanilla. You had a little bit of whiskey to go with it. Then you had the chestnut. Sometimes it comes off a little chocolatey. I personally got, the first time I smelled it, I'm like, it smells like caramel. But either way, it is a different kind of sweet iris. Still really good performance, a little boozy. This is the one. House number 4 was Versace. an incredibly difficult house to come up with. So you've got Eros, which this is the #1 fragrance in the Eros line. In terms of bottles sold, it is this. This one, this humble little Mano Fresh, sells a ton of bottles. And then when it comes to the most popular fragrance in the Eros line, at least in the fragrance community, it's probably Flame. Then you've got Compliments with Dylan Bleu. I mean, and then in terms of like overall quality, it's probably Eros Parfum. But I didn't go with any of those. I went with what I truly believe is the most iconic fragrance. I went with Oud Noir. And I picked Oud Noir because, honestly, I think this fragrance did more to popularize oud than any other fragrance on the market. YSL introduced oud to the Western markets in 2002 with M7, but it was a heavier oud. It was a darker oud. It was a less accessible oud. Some other fragrances houses tried to introduce oud, but I think Versace really nailed it. You can literally see the thought process at work with this, right? So this is oud in the most accessible way possible. It has 5 fresh notes to go with the heavy oud. They also left out the heaviness of the rose. So to me, oud is heavy, rose is heavy, and it's usually paired with saffron. But they left out the rose, and they just thought, okay, we're going to bombard this with freshness. So they added olibanum, which is a very fresh resin. They added black pepper, which is very fresh. They had saffron, and then they had 2 citrusy notes like neroli, which is orange blossom, and then bitter orange. So they just bombarded this with freshness, and that's what works for me. Then you get cardamom in the base, but I think the magic of this one is the freshness. It's a little bit more than other eau de toilettes when you're talking about Versace, but yeah, pay it. Next house is Armani, and really they have 2 outstanding ones. They have this for freshness. This is Acqua di Gio Profumo, and then this one is for cooler weather, which is Armani Code Absolu. I ultimately went with this one. Tomorrow it might be the other one. I think the Armani Code line is special. It's special to me, and even though this is not even my favorite Armani Code fragrance, that for me is Profumo. This is the one that's captured the imagination of the fragrance community, and you can tell when you see the price of this on eBay. It is absolutely insane. So this one has been discontinued, but this gives you so many different things. So you get fruity freshness at the beginning. There's apple and mandarin. So you get a little bit of that, and you can actually pick it up. Then you get some spiciness with coriander and nutmeg. You get a lot of sweetness, and this is why I prefer Profumo. There's more sweetness to me in this. You get tonka and vanilla, and then you get suede instead of leather, so the leather doesn't sort of overpower the whole thing, all with really good performance, and I think this is the outstanding fragrance from Armani. House number 6 is Hermes, and this is going to require a little bit of background information. Hermes is a super high-quality designer house. Jean-Claude Elena, who's their main perfumer, he doesn't hide the fact that he is a minimalist, so it is very minimalist. You're going to get a lot of vegetal notes. You're going to get a lot of metallic notes, things like that. So it's kind of different, but it's super high quality. You're not going to get any subpar performance. Where Hermes struggles is with mass appeal. And that's proof of that. You look at the H24 line. Now, again, EDT and the EDP high quality. The EDP is a little bit more popular, but when you look for popularity, it's not quite there. The Jardin line, a lot of people like those, but they're not super popular. So from there, I kind of narrowed it down to the Terre d'Hermes line. And ultimately, I had to go with the original. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback on this. I know how popular Eau Givré is. I know how popular Eau Très Fraîche is. Here's my problem. This is about $20 cheaper at the discounters than those 2 fragrances, and they both don't perform as well as this guy. So, if I'm talking to somebody who says, like, what's the outstanding fragrance to get from Hermes? I'm sorry. I'm going with this one. Now, the parfum makes a good case, right? The parfum smells very similar to this, but it has better performance. The problem that I have with that, again, is do you want to send someone off getting the parfum when they have to pay $15 more, again, at the discounters for less, 25% less fragrance? No, I'm sorry. I am going with the OG. This is an icon. This was their breakthrough fragrance. And if I'm talking to somebody and telling them what is the most iconic fragrance from Hermes, you know, at the end of the day, I know people with the OG Vrai lovers are going to hate me. I'm going with this one, sorry. Next up, we have the house of Issey Miyake, a house I'm not super familiar with, but what I am familiar with is the comments from YouTubers that talk about it, and it's always the same thing. L'Eau d'Issey pour Homme is their most iconic fragrance, but anytime anyone's talking about an Issey Miyake fragrance, I always go, yeah, it's kind of weird. L'Eau d'Issey pour Homme is so iconic, and yet they make better, sweeter fragrances, spicier fragrances, cool weather fragrances, and that is the constant refrain. And so if we're going with that, I'm going with Noire Ombre. I'm sorry. This is a fragrance that gives me chills. If I haven't smelled it in a couple of weeks, I will get chills. It is a combination of leather, amber, and saffron. It's fresh. It's gorgeous. It's long lasting. It's explosive. It's, I'm fully confident in this one. I think this one's easy. Finally, we have Lalique, and a lot of experience. The Encre Noire line, the Animal Head line, I have a couple of these. And, you know, Lalique are really good at making inexpensive woody fragrances. And admittedly, I haven't tried Encre Noire Extreme, but I've tried everything else in the line. And, yeah, I mean, look, they're good. They're high quality. I really like them. But to me, this one's easy. I'm going with Encre Noire. You get so much more with this fragrance. It is more expensive than a lot of the other Lalique offerings. But it's worth it. This is a higher quality fragrance, I believe, than the rest of the houses. So you get, you know, fig and mint in the opening. It's kind of a weird, woody, figgy, powdery thing. It lasts throughout. And then there's a lot of warm notes here. You get tobacco, you get cognac, you get resins, you get a little bit of tonka. Very sweet and very warm with good performance, good projection, everything. Yeah, to me, this is a step above. This one was fairly easy. But yeah, hopefully you like those choices, and feel free to battle it out and call me a moron in the comments. I don't care. I love talking in the comments, and I do appreciate all the people that do. Thanks for watching.